There's no such thing as a bad character design, only characters who have potentially not been explored to their full potential. So if you ever feel like your characters are flat or lacking memorability, this video is about how to think about the storytelling elements of your characters in order to improve their design and make sure that you can tell something about your character before they even say a word. Let's talk about some reasons why your characters might feel flat. There's no such thing as a bad character design, like I said, but what might be happening is that your characters feel bland or generic, or like they fade into the background of a large cast of characters. One of the most important parts of storytelling through the visual medium and through characters is that their design, their costuming, how they dress, how they stand, all of that stuff really builds into their character. When I first designed Thea McKay, I felt like her design was flat. I wasn't super happy with it, and I feel like now it wouldn't stand out in the crowd compared to her current design. One of the reasons for this is that I wasn't considering any storytelling elements when I designed her character. Obviously, my art style has also improved since 2015, so that certainly helps, but that's not the be-all end-all of whether characters can stand out. Characters in all styles can be memorable and really stick with you. And that leads me to my first point. When you are designing your characters, you want to design with purpose. What does this mean? This means you want to think about what is going on with that character. So, for example, it's perfectly reasonable to choose a hairstyle or a specific accessory because you think it looks cool. But what you have to think about is that you're not choosing that hairstyle, theoretically. It's the character choosing that hairstyle. So what does that mean for them? Why are they wearing gothic clothes? Or why are they dressed in all white all the time? Now let's look at some examples of storytelling through character design. First up, we're going to look at Erica Slaughter from Something is Killing the Children. If we look at her design choices, she has relatively simplistic clothing. Design doesn't have to be about making complicated buckles and whistles everywhere that tell you every part of their story. It can just be as subtle as costume design. If we look at Erica, her heavy eye makeup lends to an air of gloom and doom about her. Her hair being up definitely gives a vibe of she's ready to go at any point. Jeans and singlet combo show that she's not necessarily bothered about how she looks and is dressed more for comfort, if that makes sense. Obviously, the most striking part about her character design is the mask. And this is a storytelling element that has to do with the world building. So not everything has to be perfectly about the character, but it can also tell you something about their occupation, the world they live in, and all sorts of things. So now let's compare Superman versus Batman's design. They're both superheroes, and we are so far into the superhero world, 80 plus years, that you don't need to dissect what a superhero looks like these days. But what can we see the differences in these two designs from World's Finest by Dan Mora? One thing that always stands out to me is that Batman has his eyes and the top half of his face covered, versus Superman has nothing covered on his face. And that tells you something about the two of them. Superman is very honest, he's open, all that sort of stuff, whereas Batman's a little bit more secretive. The other thing that you can notice that it differs in their designs is the belts. Batman has a utility belt, Superman doesn't, because Superman doesn't need to have tools in the same way that Batman does. So those are all just very simple details that can make changes in characters who have similar archetypes. So how can you apply these principles to your characters? How can you start designing your characters? Before you pick up a pencil, I want you to ask yourself 3 questions about your character. 1. Where does your character live? Where your character lives and where the story takes place is going to have a massive impact on your character design. Is your story gritty and dark? Is it hopeful and optimistic? Does it take place in the forests in a Middle-earth type world? Is it in the future on Jupiter, etc.? All of those things are going to play into your character design. 2, who is your character? You don't have to have everything plotted out for your character, but you should have a basic idea of who they are, what their goals are. It can be enough to start with a basic concept, such as, what if a pig was a cowboy? Where your design might differ from where my design would be for this character concept is how we're thinking about who that character is. Does he want to save the Wild West? Is he interested in just being left alone and wrangling his cows? And number 3, what are you designing for? So what I mean by this is if your character is in a comic, you might want to think about your design so that you can draw it a billion times every panel. Alternatively, if you are doing a one-off illustration, it doesn't really matter. So things like D&D characters and all that sort of stuff can have as complicated designs as you want. So let's bring that all together while we design the main character of Infinite and Momentary Thea. So let me ask myself those questions. What world does Thea live in? Thea lives in a near futuristic world in which superheroes are very prominent and part of hero organizations, and she is a hero in training. Now, in this world, there's a lot of ancient Egyptian symbology and that sort of stuff, and that will play into it, alongside some other motifs that I will add in. Who is Thea? So, Thea is a trainee. She's fairly young. Her abilities are over the electromagnetic spectrum, and she wants more than anything to become a superhero. That's her goal. You may notice that she has massive burn scars running down the left side of her body. That hopefully tells you something about her backstory. I'm sure you can imagine what that might be. Her outfit is pseudo superhero-esque because she's still a trainee, so she doesn't have a full-on superhero outfit right now. Her heritage, which is based on my family, so it's Indian heritage. And then finally, the color scheme that I've chose is related to her powers, which are the electromagnetic spectrum. So I use a prismatic kind of color scheme because I thought that would be cool. Now, in terms of does everything need to be 100% storytelling aspects? No. The headgear that she has, I added because I love the 90s X-Men headgear that, for example, Jean Grey, Shatterstar, I think even Gambit had it at one point. I think they look really cool. Is there a particular reason that Thea has it on? She is a superhero trainee, so I felt it was fine. Finally, what is she being designed for? She's being designed for comics, so I have to draw her a billion times, so I can't make her design the most complicated design in the world. So I have streamlined a couple of things, made it easy so that it will translate well to line art and basic colors for that purpose. So my key takeaways are: think about the storytelling elements that your character designs are saying. What are they telling you about your character? How can you push them to their limit to really bring out the most for your character designs? And let me know if there's anything that you want to incorporate into your character designs, or anything that you think is cool, or anything that you noticed in Thea's design that you'd think I missed